So how are you?
Good, and you?
Good, very good. This movie, okay, I was just trying to describe the movie to these guys. Very hard movie to describe.
It's a fairy tale for grown-ups. Is the way.
Right.
That's why I think it is a good way to describe it. You know?
It is. I mean, it's got such the like the innocence of childhood, but then there's so many dark parts of this movie. Which my first question to you is, which guy are you?
Both.
Both.
I mean, both in the sense that I am aware of the brutal side of the world, but I am a guy that loves to dream and imagine and so forth. I mean, I'm not by any far involved in heinous fascist torture and activities, but I am aware that there is a very dark side to the world, and that one of the best ways to cope with it is fantasy.
Right, and tell me about coming up with this idea for this movie, like kicking this idea around your head.
Yeah, well, the idea, it's sort of a sister movie to another movie I made called Devil's Backbone, which was already set in the Civil War in Spain, and it dealt with brutality and innocence. And I think this movie deals with the same two issues. Is what happens to children in war. You know, in this case, it's after the war, but there is repression in the rebels in the mountains and so forth. So thinking about it, I thought it would be a movie where you could create a fantasy world that was as real and sometimes as scary or as dangerous as the real world.
And you leave Hollywood to go make this, elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make a movie like this in Hollywood these days?
No, you can't. Not these days.
Why not?
Not a few days ago, never. Well, imagine opening the movie with the images that you opened them, and ending the movie the way you end it. Which is a very strong, very brutal movie. I actually showed the movie early on to a Hollywood producer director, very famous, and he looked at it and he said, "Oh, it's great if you could only cut the violence, the children would go and will be a success." I said, but the whole point is to have the violent and the fantastic together.
And that's going to be some of the hardest parts of marketing the movie. I mean, you saw some of the trailers, and it looks almost fantasy-like, where you might want to bring a kid, but then you see something like, oh, no, this is not a movie for children at all.
That's why there is a great letter, a consonant in the alphabet called R.
That's right.
And the movie is R.
But in a way, it's so depressing to me because it's such a great movie for an adult.
Yeah.
And it's like that Hollywood won't make this maybe because it won't be as commercially successful because they can't get the really younger people into it.
Well, I think that I think the movie, if you are 17, 18, if you're in your late teens and you watch this movie, you'll get it. And there is ultimately, the violence in the movie is very affecting. It's not a violence that by any chance anyone would want to emulate, or is not. There's more violence, gratuitous violence in a video game, or in half an hour of cable.
Right, yeah.
I think that it's great to have a movie that addresses childhood, but for adults.
Mm-hmm. And Alfonso was in town last week promoting his film.
Yeah.
And then I don't think he was promoting this movie, but he's producing this movie, and then he's got his movie coming out. Any sense of competition between you two?
No, actually, we collaborate constantly.
Yeah?
This is the third movie we co-produced together. I produced this movie too, and we love to work. We work together all the time.
But his movie that he directed is opening right at the same time your movie's opening.
Oh yeah, but it's a different. I mean, his movie's opening in 2,000 theaters.
Right.
It's no. There's no sense of competition. We've been together on the screens and on the in the exhibition, and we've been together in the same festivals, competing for the same prize, and whoever wins wins.
And have you known each other since you were young, right?
Yeah, we've known each other for 20 years almost.
So what is that? Take me back 20 years. What was that like?
I was thinner, and Alfonso had no gray hair. No, I think that one of the things that friendship does is it allows you to stay that age when you're with your friends. So if you have a friend that you were very good friends with when you were 15, and you keep that friendship through the years, you both kind of stay 15 for the rest of your life. You have kids, and there's something in the both of us that stayed, 20.
It's got to be fun for you guys knowing each other for so long to make a movie sort of about childhood and about growing up sort of in a way, right?
Yeah, what is great is that we both see the world in similar terms. But we have a different view of is actually youth and childhood. Alfonso has a much sweeter look into childhood and youth. You see Harry Potter and or Y tu mamá también, or Little Princess, and his children are much more pure and innocent, and they live slightly happier lives, I would say. Mine are tortured and pale, and they lead horrifying adventures. You know.
I don't know if you read the Harry Potter books, but that brings
do.
up a good question.
Yeah.
As those books get darker and darker, would you be a natural choice to do one of those movies?
I would love to be the one to off one of the kids, of course. but in reality, the third movie, the third Harry Potter, was offered to me even before it was offered to Alfonso.
Really?
Yeah, but I was busy doing my own stuff, and I really, so far I've read the books, and it was not the book I liked the most. You know.
Oh, really? That was my favorite.
Yeah. No,
I
I actually would have loved to do the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to do the first one because the first book was, the book was darker, much darker than the movie. It had a certain Charles Dickens elements to it. You know, the orphan living there with the evil parent, the evil relatives. You know, it was great.
All right, we got to wrap up, but I got to ask you one thing. We were talking about this before you came in. We had a lot of time, so we were studying the poster here.
Mm-hmm.
A very reproductive image in the poster.
They're very much.
Can you describe that to me? I mean, I don't know how much I can say on TV.
Even the fallopian tubes are.
That's right, yeah.
Well, but at the same time, it's an echo of the face of the fawn, you know, with the mouth open.
But sort of this character is sort of being reborn by entering the world of the Labyrinth.
The movie is full of, I would say, embryonary or sort of a placenta. It's full of like child, baby images. Because I think the girl is reborn at the end of the movie into her own world. And also because most of the fantasy world I think she would dream of is really going back to the belly of her mother. You know, when you see the movie, the colors in the magical world are scarlet and golden, very internal, almost visceral colors. And the rest of the world is these colors, is blues and greens and pale grays and stuff like that. And so the real world is far more cold and uninviting than the fantasy world.